Hi friends, welcome to estudy.in. So now we will understand how to create classes in Python. Okay, so before I actually start working, I just written some code here and let me just explain this code to you. So here we have written a class. Now when we, just like in functions, when you define a function you write the def keyword. So similarly when you are defining a class you will write the class keyword. Now class is a keyword followed by the name of the class. This can be any user defined name. You can give any name here. So I'm calling it test class. You need not write class here. You can just write class only. So class, this is a keyword. It has to be written like this. After that the name of the class followed by a colon, just like we put after function name. And then within the class we have, like here I have a variable I is equal to 12, and then we have a function wherein the only different thing here is this self, which we do not know what it is as of now, but let's ignore it for the time being, and then we are returning welcome to the class method. So basically the structure of a class is that you write the class keyword, and within the class you define the functions and you define the properties. So as we understood that a class is basically a specification, a blueprint. So here a class will have objects coming out of the class, basically have properties and the functions. So we need to define some properties within the class and some functions within the class. So here I is the property or the attribute and the function is mm. Okay, so let us just understand it, create this, and let's see how it works. So what we'll do is we'll create a class. Class is a keyword and let's call it test. Okay, and we can put colon after this, and then here let me just write I is equal to 12, and here let me define a function, let's say, and we need to pass this self here. We will understand what the self is. As of now, just pass this. Okay, we will understand the meaning of self later. And here we can instead of returning, just print it. Let's just print welcome to the class, welcome to the class method. Okay, right? So that's it. So now what we've done is we've created a class here, right? And here we've created a class, and this is the property or the features of the class, and this is the function. We can define as many functions as we want to in the class, right? So now we have created this. Now the next thing is, once we have the class, we need to create objects of this class, because once you have the specification, the blueprint, now based on this we can have objects of the class, right? So how do we create objects of the class? So once you have the class here, so how do we create an instance or an object? So we will write like this. So once you write like this, you are creating objects here. So we have created two objects, ob1 and ob2. So that means basically ob1 is going to test class, and round parenthesis would create an instance or an object of the class. So if we go here and let us create an object of this class, so we'll say ob1 is equal to, we'll just write test. Okay, so now we have created one object. You can create as many objects as you want of the test class. Okay, so we have created two objects of the test class. Now here objects are also called, as I told you, instances of the class. So basically when we are writing like this, test round parenthesis, we are creating or we are instantiating a class. Okay, so this is called instantiation, and this is object ob1. This is basically pointing towards this this object. Okay, so this is another ob2, second instance of the class test. Right, now that we've created an instance of the class, right, so we need to have access to the properties and to the functions of the class, right? So how do we do that? Once we have created an object or an instance, so we will understand how to access the properties or the functions of the class. So here, when we write here, let's say ob, okay, simply let's just print it. So we'll say ob1 dot, and we'll write I. Okay, so similarly we can print ob2 dot I. So that means to access the properties or the attributes of the class, we need to use dot operator. So when you print these and you run this, so you get 12 and 12. So both objects have got the same value of I. Similarly, we can make a call to the functions of the object. So here I'll simply say ob2 or ob1 dot mm, and similarly we can say ob2 dot mm. So using the dot operator we can access or we can make a call to the properties or the functions of the class. So when you run it now, you get this output. Okay. Now that we have understood how to access the properties or the functions of the class, so let us move further and understand some new terms. So properties are called data attributes. This is the data, ob1.i and ob2.i. So I is the data attribute, and functions are called methods, or like they are functions, but a method is a function that belongs to an object. Okay, so here instead of calling a function, we will call it a method. Okay, so because when a function belongs to an object, it is called a method. Now what is the meaning of this term? What is this self that we are using here? Okay, so let us understand this. So here if you see, we are saying that is a method because it belongs to an object. So what is the meaning that it belongs to an object? So just to understand this, what we'll do is, now here if you see this first argument to this method is self. So whenever we have a function which is defined in the class and which has the first argument as self, then that method belongs to the object. Okay, so basically self refers to the object. Now what is the meaning of this self refers to the object? So if you see, when I made a call to this function or to this method, as we should call it, so I said ob1.mm, right? So we said ob1.mm, so that means this object ob1 is making a call to this method mm, okay, to this function mm. So we get this output, right? So if simply I call it like this, it will give us an error. That means I need an object to call this method. So that object could be any object of the test class. So if you run it like this, so you're still getting the output. Okay, so it needs an object. So but we are not, if you see, we are not passing any argument here, so this should give us an error, whereas here we have an argument self. So what is this? Why are we not getting an error even though we are not passing the argument here? So basically, let me just reverse the call here. Let me just call it like this, test is the name of the class, dot operator followed by name of the function, and here let me just pass ob1, this object ob1. Okay, now let's run it. So you see, we're still getting the output. So that means when we make a call like this, the name of the class, dot method name, and we pass the object. So now we are passing an argument to this function, to right? So this argument, this object, so self refers to this object, okay, basically. So instead of calling the method like this, when we call it like this, let's say ob2.mm, so it still means the same thing. So when we say ob2.mm, basically this ob2, this self is referring to the ob2. Okay, so self is a reference to the ob2. So internally what is happening is this ob2 is getting passed as an argument to Okay, so that is why self here means whichever object is used to make a call to self will refer to that object. Okay, so if I say ob1.mm, then self refers to ob1. So we normally do not call it like this. This was just to explain you. So what basically we do is we make a call like this only, right? So this is as good as this only, where it is understood that we don't need to write ob1 here, right? We don't need to write it here because that would be redundant. Okay, so we don't need to write it here. It is understood because we are making a call with the method. So that is understood that the object being referred to is the object with which it is invoking the method. So that is the meaning of self. Okay, so now, so this is what we mean. So what is self basically? So self refers to the invoking object, the object which is used to invoke or call the method. So when we say c1.mm, it is as good as saying like test class.mm and then we pass c1 here. Okay, so both mean the same, and obviously we will use this notation. So this is what, so now we'll say that methods are the functions which belong to the object. Okay, so here is a method. We'll say it is an object method because it belongs to the object, and we are making a call to this method using the object. So these are called object methods, right? So we will continue with object-oriented programming, the next topic in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching estudy.in.